that many Chabad Hasidim believe that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is still the Messiah, despite the fact that he is deceased. And one of the critics of Lubavitch, someone by the name of Professor Rabbi David Berger, who is the Dean of Judaic Studies in Yeshiva University, has called Lubavitch out on this issue and has demanded that rabbis, including the RCA, ban Lubavitchers and not accept their hechsherim and make their wine non-kosher. I want to say to all of you, including some of my former friends, if you ascribe to this particular position, you're either wicked or you're ignorant, or both. You're either a Rasha or an Amoritz, or both. In two different places, the Talmud discusses the possibility of Messiah from the dead. And I've proven that this indeed was a valid approach from the rabbis in the Talmud. One of you called me out on this, claiming that I was lying about learning the sources, because these sources are mentioned in Likutei Siches. Now, notwithstanding what some people out there think, most Lubavitchers read other things other than Likutei Siches, including myself, and it just so happens that I know the Yerushalmi by myself. I can't say that I have a Seder in Yerushalmi, I have a Seder in Daf HaYomi and in Rambam and other things, but I don't get involved in learning Yerushalmi per se. But at one time I did learn some Yerushalmi, and I learned this Yerushalmi, that the second chapter of Brachos, that there are those who say, Rabbanan Amri, what is the name of the Messiah? The Rabbanan say, if he be from the living, his name is David. If he is from the dead, then his name is David, says the Pnei Moshe. Then he is King David. King David himself is the Messiah. Despite the fact that David had died 1100 years prior to the Jerusalemite Talmud being encoded. So from here you see, at least according to the Pnei Moshe, that Messiah can be from the dead. Clearly King David was deceased at the time. And how could this be? This is a separate question. But the first question is, what is the Talmud saying? The Talmud is saying that a man who died could be the Messiah. So this man called me out and said that the Rebbe in Chelik Lamed Vav, in a particular page, and he quoted the page, quotes Rambam as saying that Messiah cannot be from the dead. And my response was that Rambam does not discuss whether Messiah can be from the dead or not. And the proof of the pudding is that Rambam, Maimonides, clearly states that Messiah does not come to bring miracles, but does not say that Messiah cannot be from the dead, even though this would have required such a statement. The fact that Rambam says in chapter 11, halacha 4 of the Laws of Kings, he says as follows: there's a whole list of requirements for the Messiah. Messiah's got to go ahead and do the battles of God. He's got to fix the breaches of the fulfillment of the Torah among the people, get all the people to fulfill the Torah mitzvahs, and he's got to defeat the enemies of God and build a temple in its place. And then he's going to have to gather all the people, all the exiles of Israel, and exiles of Israel. Then he builds the temple in its place, and the temple having God's presence in it, then you know for sure that this is the Messiah. If he didn't do all of this, or if he was killed, then this is not the promised Messiah. You must assume that it's someone else and wait for him. So because he says if he was not so successful, or if he was killed, then this is not the promised Messiah, That's the proof that Messiah cannot be from the dead, because if he be from the dead, then maybe you should wait for him to resurrect. My response to that is that then it was not necessary to say, or if he was killed. What difference does it make how he was not successful? That's number one. Number two, if Maimonides is emphatically saying that Messiah cannot be from the dead, he would have said so clearly, not from an inference, although many times Maimonides does have laws that are derived from an inference. That's when it's his own chidush, when something that is his own created idea. Here, we're dealing with a topic that has been breached by the Talmud, not just in one place, but in two different places. And so this is something that Maimonides, if he is indeed saying, according to one side of the question, the Maimonides should have said, Messiah cannot be from the dead, he can only be from the living, that he has decided on that option. The fact that he doesn't say that is proof that he's not addressing this question. So you might ask, well, if that's not the question, whether he be from the dead or not, what is the reason why he says, if he has not been thus successful, or if he was killed, he is not the one that's promised? Doesn't that sound like he can't be from the dead? The answer is no. I want to explain to you why. There was a rabbi. There are many rabbis, but there was a rabbi, a very special rabbi. This rabbi was a renegade. This rabbi did not believe that there was going to be a Jewish Messiah. And his opinion is quoted not just once, but twice in the Talmud, 98b, 99a in Sanhedrin, Talmud Bavli Sanhedrin. You can look it up. Rabbi Hillel says, Ein Mashiach liYisrael. Why? There is no Messiah to Israel, because it was supposed to have been Chizkiah. King Chizkiah was supposed to be the Messiah because God wanted to make a Messiah. King Chizkiah did not sing praises to God when they were saved from Sancherib, and when he was ill and he was going to die, he didn't sing praises to God. Therefore, ergo, he is not going to be the Messiah. Since he's not going to be the Messiah, God wanted to make him Messiah. There can't be anybody else. That's what Rabbi Hillel says. And the Talmud says he should be forgiven for his errors. What does Rabbi Hillel say? Why is it necessary to negate his opinion not once, but twice? Because, you see, the Talmud does say that God wished to make Chizkiah into the Messiah. And just as the Torah says that Moses was the one that was designated to be the Redeemer of Israel in the onset of our history, so too Chizkiah should have been the last Redeemer in our history. The fact that he wasn't, according to Rabbi Hillel, means that no longer will there be Messiah. Since he's the designated Messiah, and he failed, and he sinned, that's it. God is going to have to do that, not a human being. Had Moses not been successful, had Moses died, or had Moses not listened to God, then God himself would have taken us out of Egypt. This is the opinion of Rabbi Hillel, that the role of the Messiah has been given to a particular person, a designated hitter, a designated Messiah, and no one else can take his place. And that's what Maimonides wishes to negate with his statement, if he has not been thus successful, or he was killed. Who was not thus successful? Chizkiah was supposed to be the Messiah, and he did defeat the enemies of Israel, but he failed to bring all the exiles back, and although the temple was built in his time, he did not bring all the exiles back. There was no world peace. His dominion did not extend to the entire world. Ergo, he's not the Messiah. So he didn't reach that level of success. So Rabbi Hillel says there's no more Messiah, because he's supposed to be the Messiah.